Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate day number 1070, March the 12th, 2020, Thursday. Thank you so much for tuning in. Okay, before I get into the news of the day here, I just want to say thank you to everyone in the comments section for all your nice comments, and welcome to all the new subscribers tuning in. I appreciate you guys just stopping by and checking out the news of the day and following the TowerGate story. Hopefully in the not too distant future we'll be able to talk a lot more about the Spygate related issues as this political silly season unwinds a little bit before the general election. And I think that's that's coming very, very soon, by the way. Alrighty, let's go ahead and get into the news of the day. Very important story, top news story today for me anyway, is that John Solomon has now obtained some documents, and I believe he got these documents from Sidney Powell. He doesn't exactly say he got the documents from Sidney Powell, but he is quoting her both in the story that he wrote today or yesterday, and also in the brief interview he did with Lou Dobbs. So let's cover some of this new information, because I don't know that this is so much new information. It's that he now has the documents to prove two specific things that we believed were true for a very long time, but now we know that the actual documents that a lot of people have been looking for actually do exist, and they are in the possession of Sidney Powell. This is going to explain why. This is going to explain a lot about what was in that letter that Sidney Powell wrote that triggered Attorney General Barr and the DOJ to temporarily suspend the sentencing hearing of Michael Flynn and to appoint this U.S. attorney, which I think is out of Arkansas. Anyways, the U.S. attorney that they appointed to look into the Flynn case. So it's temporarily suspended. The sentencing hearing of Flynn is suspended while this U.S. attorney looks into it. And I believe it's these two things I'm about to tell you that Sidney Powell made aware, she made the DOJ aware of, and she obviously has got the documents or evidence, which is what forced the DOJ's hand to suspend the sentencing hearing and have this investigated by a U.S. attorney. So here is the long and short of it. Okay. So John Solomon has now obtained documents that prove what Attorney General Barr said in his Fox interview with Martha McCallum back just a couple of months ago. And it is very, very bad news for Uncle Bob, the executioner, Mueller, and the DOJ. Here is what Solomon can now prove based on the documents he has. That the Trump-Russia collusion case fell apart within the first couple of weeks after Trump was elected. And in fact, after Trump was actually sworn in. Yet Mueller accepted the special counsel appointment anyway. In other words, Solomon's saying that we've been talking about this now for weeks and weeks, but now Solomon has the documents to prove it. Uncle Bob the executioner did know. We assumed he knew, but we didn't know he knew. Now we know Mueller knew 100% when he accepted the appointment of special counsel that there was no Trump-Russia collusion. He knew it on the day he accepted that position. Mueller became aware in early of 2017 that there was no Russian collusion. Yet he pressed on and forced Trump associates to plead guilty to unrelated process crimes. In other words, all these prosecutions and all the harassment of Roger Stone, of Michael Flynn, of Papadopoulos, of Caputo, of many other people whose names have not even come out yet, that were harassed in the Mueller investigation. All this was done after Mueller knew that there was no Trump-Russia collusion. John Solomon now has in his possession classified memos that show that the Steele dossier was debunked in January 2017, and also this idea that Michael Flynn was a Russian asset also was known to be false. Uncle Bob the executioner Mueller was aware of the letter that was sent to Michael Flynn that questioned Christopher Steele's credibility. Solomon says that the British government hand-delivered the letter to Flynn's legal team. And that totally disavowed any credibility of Christopher Steele. Now, this document's coming from Sidney Powell that John Solomon now has. So we've heard a lot about this letter that everybody's been looking for years. And it appears now that at some point during the Michael Flynn trial, and I don't know if this is before Sidney Powell or after, but at some point, this letter was given to Flynn's legal team. And it's a letter which is, I guess, a duplicate or a copy of the original letter, which is the British government, the official position of the British government, that they're looking at the Steele's dossier, Christopher Steele dossier. They found it to be lacking credibility, not true, bogus, bullshit. Sidney Powell told John Solomon that she was told that a copy of the letter would have been given to then National Security Advisor Susan Rice. So we're saying here that Susan Rice was originally given this letter by the British government very early on, after Trump's became president, after he was elected president. The British government came forward and said, hey, here's this letter. It got to National Security Advisor Susan Rice saying, we, the British government, don't believe the Steele dossier is credible. And then we heard about this letter, but Flynn was under a gag order, so he could never be asked about it. But he was able to tell his lawyer, Sidney Powell, about it. And then at some point during his trial, I don't know if it was before or after Sidney Powell, but they acquired a copy of this letter that was originally given to Susan Rice saying, hey, the dossier, it's bullshit. Sidney Powell has a 2018 letter that was obtained by Just the News. And this letter is between Special Counsel Mueller's office and the defense lawyers. And it shows that the Department of Justice exoneration memo was written after Flynn had been interviewed by the FBI in January of 2017. After Flynn had briefed the department, the DIA, after Flynn had briefed the DIA about his contacts with Russia. And the FBI then advised the DOJ that they did not believe that Flynn was acting as an agent of Russia. And Mueller actually wrote this in a letter. But he pursued Michael Flynn anyway. So this is another thing that we've heard that has never really been proven, but now we know it's true. Is that when Flynn, before he went to that RT dinner in Russia, he went and briefed the DIA. He said, hey, I've been invited to speak at this RT dinner, and I'm going to go. Just letting you know. And there was a briefing. Then when he returned, he gave them a debriefing about what had occurred. And this was known to the Mueller team. And after reviewing this information, the FBI, after reviewing this information with the DIA, had determined, and then they questioned Flynn, had determined that Flynn was no way a Russian agent. But despite all that, Mueller persisted anyway. So the Mueller team's entire investigation was based on the meeting of the February 14th, 2017 meeting between Trump and Comey, when Trump asked Comey to go easy on Flynn. The entire thing was nothing more than an obstruction trap for Trump from day one, because Mueller knew from day one that there was no Trump-Russia collusion and that Flynn was not in any way, shape, or form acting on behalf of the Russian government. They knew there was no Trump-Russia collusion because the British government themselves had presented National Security Advisor Susan Rice with a letter stating, we, the British government, have determined that the Steele dossier is bullshit, not credible. And we know that the FBI was able to acquire the interview, the briefing and debriefing from Michael Flynn with the DIA. They reviewed it, and they determined that Michael Flynn was not acting as a Russian agent. Yet despite these two main things, which is what was used to authorize the special counsel, and Uncle Bob the Executioner knew this all on day one. He went ahead and pursued it anyway. And what he was actually pursuing, knowing that all that was bullshit, what was actually going on in the Mueller investigation was the entire 2-year investigation was based on setting an obstruction trap for Trump, based on Comey's leaked memo that Trump told him at a dinner that they had on February 14th of 2017 that Trump wanted him to go easy on Michael Flynn. Of course, we now know there was no reason for Comey to go easy on Michael Flynn because he didn't do anything. The FBI had already cleared him. He'd given his briefing and debriefing to the Defense Intelligence Agency. They had been interviewed by the FBI. They looked at the briefing and debriefing. They had determined, and they had questioned Flynn, and they had determined he did not lie to them and that he was not acting as a Russian agent. And Uncle Bob the Executioner knew that. He also knew in January of 2017, not just from what the FBI had already determined, but also from the British government themselves, that Steele's dossier was completely debunked. The entire Mueller witch hunt was nothing more than a 2-year-long trap, an obstruction trap for Trump, based on the leaked Comey memo of the dinner he had with Trump on February 14th of 2017, where they used that to try to lay an obstruction trap for Trump. But despite knowing all these things, they drugged all these people through hell and tried to destroy their lives. Carter Page, Papadopoulos, Michael Caputo, Roger Stone, and many others whose names we don't even know right now. Those weren't the only people that the Mueller team drug in and harassed for months. There were more. How about that? Everything we suspected, now proven true. And now, well, these documents have always existed, we just never were able to get them. But I remember when Jordan and Meadows were trying like crazy because we heard this rumor that there was this letter that the British government gave the Obama administration right after Trump was elected saying, hey, this whole Russian dossier stuff based on our ex-spy Steele, we've looked at all that stuff, man. Don't buy it. It's garbage. That was coming from the British government. And then by the end of that month, by the end of January, the FBI themselves had debunked it. And they knew prior to Mueller taking on this investigation as special counsel, they knew that Flynn was also clean. They knew that Trump was clean. They knew that Flynn was clean. Yet they continued on and pursued it and put all these people through hell. That is why Attorney General Barr has appointed his U.S. attorney to look into the Flynn case and why the sentencing has been suspended indefinitely. Now it's not going to happen. You can be assured of that. The DOJ will end up dropping their charges against Flynn, and eventually they'll end up, a lot of these charges that were placed on a lot of these people will likely be reversed or something. It was all done in bad faith. It was all done without proper predicate. It was all done based on lies. And Uncle Bob the Executioner is on the hook. Now, he may try to play senile. He may try to play dummy, but I don't think it's going to fly. He knew what he was taking on. And we're also going to find out, believe me, we're going to find out that when he went to that meeting with Rodenstein the day before he was appointed special counsel, that he knew exactly why he was going in that meeting. And it wasn't to, yeah, he was asking about the job as FBI director, but it wasn't so much for that. He was actually wanting to have a one-on-one with Trump, or with Rodenstein and Trump, because he wanted to kind of size up Trump. Mueller was sizing up Trump. That's the only reason that meeting occurred. There you go. Okay, let's go to this next story. I'll skip this and come back here. So let's go to this next story now. Yesterday we learned from the new head of counterintelligence, he told members of Congress that there is no evidence that Russia is interfering in the 2020 election, and that the statement that we had a couple weeks ago from that nutcase woman they say, in fact, he says, this is the new head of counterintelligence, after looking at that statement that was made and the so-called evidence behind it. There wasn't any evidence behind it, and that the statement seemed, he says, orchestrated, and he says that both question and answer appear to have been pre-drafted. Yet, she came out and made this accusation, and then the Washington Post ran the story that Trump and Russia were now working on Trump-Russia 2.0, knowing good and well total bullshit. Now, I don't know if she's still at the CIA or wherever she's from, but she needs to go. She needs to go. Now, let's get back to the politics of the day. As you know, last night was Mini Super Tuesday, and just as the polls indicated, Bernie got his ass kicked. He got his ass kicked. And it looks like he may have won North Dakota, and at this point, they're still counting the votes in Washington. Last time I checked, Bernie was up by 0.2%, with 67% of the vote in. So he may end up winning Washington State, but really he should have won Washington State by a mile. It shouldn't even be close. And he lost Michigan pretty handily. This would, for the most part, from the delegate's point of view, Bernie is done, okay, from a delegate point of view. Now, in the next voting that occurs, which is when our state, Ohio, votes on the 27th, every single one of those states, Bernie lost, and he lost badly to the rotten Reverend Clinton in 2016. He's absolutely going to lose all of those as well. So, anyway, Bernie did come out and make a statement yesterday morning, and he says that he is going to continue, despite the ass-kicking he got, despite the fact that he has no clear path to getting the delegates to be the front runner in delegates, or even to get close at this point. He says he is looking forward, he's going to continue, he's looking forward to the debate with Biden on Sunday. So, he obviously watched my video of yesterday when I told him not to drop out for this very reason. So what's going on here? Well, I think a couple things are going on here. First, I think Bernie knows he's done. He's not stupid. He knows he is done. But Bernie, of course, is doing this. This is his retirement plan. He's holding out for the payoff. They haven't hit his number yet. I'm sure they're making offers, but they haven't hit his number yet. That's one thing that's going on. Now, last time he got, as we understand, about $1 million. He bought a new summer home, and he and his wife bought matching Mercedes sports sedans with that money, and probably had plenty left over. So I don't know what he would be holding out for now. Maybe a Gulfstream is my guess. Maybe Bernie wants his own Gulfstream. Who knows what he's holding out for, but he's obviously holding out for something, because he knows he's essentially done. Now, that's the first thing that's going on. The second thing that's going on is he's taking advice of people around him, which is the same advice I gave him on yesterday's video. Look, you're not going to catch Biden now in the delegate race. There's no way that you're going to catch him. There's no more big states with large delegate numbers that play in Bernie's favor. His best shot was Michigan and Washington. He needed to win those two states, and he needed to win big. He didn't. So he's basically done. Now, he could run this thing out to the convention and deprive Biden of the required amount of delegates to actually go into the convention with the delegates needed to close the deal. That's about 2,100 delegates. But I don't think he'll hold on that long. I really don't. I think if you look at the second half of his statement, he said he's looking forward to the debate on Sunday. So there is a debate this Sunday. It'll be one-on-one pretty much, because they're keeping Tulsi out. So it'll be Bernie and Biden. I think this is his last ditch. I think he's probably been told that his best effort now is that if Biden has a meltdown, because Biden is right on the verge of having a huge meltdown. They've limited his speaking to no more than 7-minute speeches, and he can't even pull off a 7-minute speech without going off the script and saying crazy things and losing track of his thoughts, and you know the rest. So my guess is this is maybe one last ditch effort, and they're probably, because this is going to be a 2-hour-long debate. Now, the debate rules have changed since the last time we talked. Originally, this had been moved to a town. It was going to be a regular, debate, standing at the podiums, and getting questions from the media. Then they changed it to a sit-down deal with a town hall type environment with people in the audience asking questions. Now, and they're using coronavirus as the reason, now they're saying, okay, no studio audience asking questions. It will be just media people asking questions, and they'll still be sitting down, but it won't be town hall. So it's going to be a town hall without the town hall. It's going to be a town hall look, town hall style, but no town hall. The reporters will be asking questions. So my guess is that Bernie has gotten the same advice that I gave, which is Biden is clearly losing his mind from probably dementia or something else. And when that happens to people like that, they get very, very agitated and very irritated. So my guess is Bernie's been told, there's no way you're going to catch Biden and the delegates. That's not going to happen. You're not even going to have enough delegates if you arrive at the convention and stay in this thing to the end. You won't even have enough delegates to even make a first vote good showing for yourself. Biden could win on the first vote. Wouldn't even need the superdelegates. But if they need them, they're there on a second vote. So I think that Bernie's been told that he's got one last shot, and that is to agitate and irritate Biden as much as possible in this debate, to force him into an unforced error, to force Biden into coming unglued, and to rattle him. And that may be, and if that happens and he gets rattled, comes unglued, people say, no way, Biden can't get this done. I mean, it's just, and then they'll have to pull him out of the game. So everyone knows that this is a possibility, but he's going to get as much protection from the mainstream media and from the CNN, or I think it's CNN that's doing this debate. They're going to do everything they can to protect Biden, be my guess. But there's only so much you can do. I mean, he's got to talk. And if it's a 2-hour debate, that means he's got to talk for about an hour. And he's going to have to debate Bernie on policy. And he's going to have to, probably Bernie is going to try to get under his skin and irritate him a little bit. Because that's what sets Biden off. That's when he does crazy things, says really crazy things. This would be my advice as well. So this looks like the last ditch. So if you ask me, Bernie is holding out for whatever payoff he's hoping to get. But he's going to give it one last shot this coming Sunday in this debate. Then, of course, there'll be another big mini Super Tuesday vote, which will occur, I believe, on the 27th. Those states, Bernie is going to lose, okay? We know that. And at that point, I believe he will bail out. If he can't get Joe Biden to stumble and take himself out in this debate coming on Sunday night, I think that they'll go ahead and have the vote on Tuesday, and I think Bernie will call it quits at that point. That's my thinking at this point. It's a last-ditch Hail Mary for Bernie Sunday night in the debate to try to force Joe Biden to take himself out. And that's the only hope that Biden has got, or I mean that Bernie has got, because Bernie can't take Biden out in delegates. Biden can only take himself out with his dementia. And of course, we know that the Democrats, there's a lot of Democrats, we saw them come out after the mini Super Tuesday vote. We had Carville and a bunch of the usual suspects. Clyburn came out and made a statement. They're calling for the Democratic Party to now accept the fact that the primary is over, that Bernie simply cannot catch Biden, and that they should call the game. Call the game. No more primary contest. No more debates. Shut it all down. Declare Biden the nominee. Now, this will be against the party rules. Now, they can shut down the debates. The debates are a voluntary thing that they do with the media organizations. So the DNC can certainly do that, but it'll look very, very shady if they do. And everyone knows that's why they'll be doing it, which makes it worse. But I think that they have to continue the primary process. I mean, the states are allowed to have their primaries, and as long as there's a primary and Bernie qualifies and he's on the ballot, he gets to hang around. But I do believe that after the ass-kicking he took on Super Tuesday and mini Super Tuesday, that when we get to this next mini Super Tuesday, he's likely to lose every one of those 6 states that are voting. He lost them all in 2016. He's liable to lose every one of them again, and I think that will finally be the stick of fork in him, he's done point for Bernie. There'll be really no point for him to go on, other than to just disrupt the party. And I think that based on statements he's made, he does not want to do that. and he wants to cash out. And I think probably there's a deal in there somewhere to pay him off. And part of that deal is going to be that he bows out. Either he bows out. Well, I think it'll be that he's already said he's not going to bow out now. So that must be that he's working a deal to bow out after the next mini Super Tuesday. I think that's the deal that's being worked on. But he wants to give it one last shot to see if he can allow Biden to take himself out in a debate. And that's what it looks like to me. Well, it looks like the Republicans and the Demo commies have joined together to come up with a deal to reauthorize the FISA court. And that would have expired today. But it looks like they've cut a secret deal behind closed doors. The vote was 278 to 136. We don't yet know the name of the traitors who voted for this, and we don't even know what the deal is because it was done in secret. But you can bet that over the next 3 or 4 days, as probably Hannity and Lou Dobbs and Tucker Carlson and certainly Maria Bartiromo on Sunday morning are going to be having some of these guys on, and you can bet the ones who went along with it are probably not going to show up. And that would be Lindsey Graham. I'm sure he voted for it. But so the only step now is, will the president sign it? Will the president sign it? Well, I think under normal circumstances he would not, unless he sees something in here that gives him confidence to believe that the system's being changed to a degree which he's okay with. But under the circumstances with the coronavirus, the economies, not just our economy, but the global economy taking a hit, the uncertainty, how far the markets will fall, how much wealth we're going to lose, how this could impact the elections. There's a lot of things going on in the wheelhouse of President Trump right now. There are a lot of unknown variables. I don't know that he wants to get into a fight with people he's going to be counting on in the near future. So he might be forced to do something he really does not want to do in signing this FISA just because he doesn't need another headache on this deal. And he probably feels like he needs Barr to some degree, and he needs Lindsey Graham and some of these other people. So I think he might do something he'd rather not do. That's just my opinion. I don't know for sure. Now, maybe they've put things in place in this agreement that Trump's comfortable with. But I'm suspicious because no press conference. Nobody came out to a podium and a microphone and said, okay, great news. We've come up with a plan that we think everyone will be happy with. Here's what we're going to do to get the FISA reauthorized, and here's the things we're going to put in place to make sure the abuses don't happen again. But the fact that there was no press conference, that was done in the middle of the night, in secret, and now they're going to try to quietly pass this through, tells me that there's something stinks. Something stinks. Well, it looks like Trump has endorsed Tommy Tuberville. And it looks like right now Tuberville has about a 12-point lead over the Crimson Tide elf, Jeff Sessions. So clearly Trump, and he tweeted out this. This was a tweet. It was not like an official press conference. It was literally a tweet where he tweeted out that he's endorsing Tuberville. Now, Sessions isn't exactly happy to hear this, but quite honestly, it's time for Jeff to retire. He's been around way too long, and quite honestly, and I know there's some of you out here who disagree with me on this point, but I just don't think that Sessions should have blown the whistle on Uncle Bob the Executioner, should never have allowed that to happen. I don't believe he's a white hat or a black hat. I just don't believe he was up to the job. I don't think Sessions is a bad guy. I don't think he was part of the coup. I don't buy into any of that, but I certainly don't buy into the fact that he's somehow a sleeper white hat who's suddenly going to come out at the end of the game and he's going to be the big hero. I don't believe that at all. I believe Sessions was in way over his head. He got played. He got bullied. He let himself be kicked around. He threw Trump to the wolves. Didn't mean to. Didn't want to. It's just his weakness allowed that to happen. And that's what I believe. And so, yes, I don't want to see Sessions back. Nothing personal. He's probably a nice guy. But really, I mean, he's been in the Senate for a long time. He's been around for a long time. Yes, I think it's time for a change in Alabama. It's been a fiasco and a circus act trying to get that done and get a good senator down there. That's how we ended up with Doug Jones. So, yes, we need to get Tommy Tuberville. I think he'll do a fantastic job, and we know he's a hardcore Trump supporter, and we certainly need that in the Senate in this upcoming year. Harvey Weinstein, 23 years. Harvey Weinstein, 23 years. Now, this is just in the sentencing in the New York case. Remember, there's still a case out in Los Angeles that has not been finished yet. So, he's got 23 years. Well, that's a life sentence for Harvey Weinstein for rape and sexual assault. Now, everyone knows that Harvey Weinstein's not going to survive 23 years in prison, okay? It's not going to happen. How long he will survive in prison, I don't know. But with all the things that he knows and all the things he might be willing to do or say to get out of his prison sentence, you know, you can never be sure. But if I were Harvey Weinstein, you know, yeah, you got a 23-year sentence, but my guess is you're not going to last that long in the big house. Something is going to happen to Harvey Weinstein long before he hits 23 years, and it might happen pretty soon. You know what I mean? So, there you go, Harvey Weinstein. And also, during this trial, they uncovered a email that Harvey Weinstein sent. Apparently, this actress, Jennifer Aniston, had made some derogatory comment about Weinstein, and when Weinstein was advised about this, told about this by his secretary, he sent an email back to her saying that Jennifer Aniston should be killed. Jennifer Aniston should be killed. So, she's kind of nutty, and she's a liberal, but she probably doesn't deserve to be killed. Slapped around a bit, maybe, for her political idiocy, but certainly not killed. But that tells you what kind of guy Harvey Weinstein was. Whether or not this guy actually ever had anybody whacked, I don't know. Probably not. But he's an awfully good friend of the Rotten Reverend Clinton. Do you think the Rotten Reverend Clinton will visit Harvey Weinstein in prison? He donated a lot of money to her. She talked about what good friends they were, but something tells me that Weinstein will never see the crooked Hillary's ugly face ever again. She's going to distance herself as far as she can from Harvey Weinstein. In fact, a lot of people are going to distance themselves from Harvey Weinstein. A lot of people he thought were his friends didn't show up to defend him in court. And he's probably got a lot of grudges. He knows a lot of things. If I were the Rotten Reverend Clinton and a bunch of other people in Hollywood, I would not want Harvey Weinstein talking, let alone walking around with a 23-year prison sentence. Yes, and it looks like Hunter Biden has now settled his dispute with his baby mama. So he had been held in contempt because he wouldn't produce his tax records that would show his income. So her lawyers filed to put him in contempt. This was day before yesterday. Well, it appears now that he has reached a settlement, and the plaintiff, her attorneys, are saying they're perfectly happy with the settlement and that they have no further issues with Hunter Biden. They've reached an agreement. He's going to pay her off. Now, where do you think the money came from to shut her up? It came from wealthy donors in the DNC who know that this is trouble for Joe Biden, and they had to take care of this issue and clean up Hunter's mess. They had to clean up his mess. No telling what kind of money this woman got to shut her mouth and go away, but it looks like they've bought her off. And now that problem is taken care of. And my guess is over the next couple of months, there'll be other problems that Joe Biden has that will be taken care of. For instance, that little investigation in the Senate by Ron Johnson, that will likely be taken care of. That investigation into Ukraine, into Joe Biden, that will likely be taken care of. Everybody can be bought, especially in the swamp or in the corrupt government institutions, places like Ukraine. Everybody will be bought off. Everyone will be taken care of to clear the way for Biden. Only so that they can wait for the appropriate time when he outs himself or offs himself, says something really stupid, blanks out, blacks out, whatever, in which case the Rotten Reverend is waiting in the wings. Take it to the bank. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll be back tomorrow with more TowerGate. See ya. Bye.